Good afternoon, everyone, and I would like to welcome you to an episode of Back to Black. As we are talking about, as of late, the mass shootings that have popped up here and there. Well, it's not here and there, but they've been going on for a while. But as of late, they have been centered around racism and us as a people, as we are going to talk about it Back to Black. Now, before I get started with this show, let's just say this. Any mass shooting of any race is an evil and just tragic event. Now, one of the reasons we're going to concentrate ours around on Back to Black around the latest one in Buffalo and the one in California is basically because there has been, as of the last, well, that's been since the beginning of time of black people coming to America, hate speech, but it has picked up yet another notch here as of late. A lot of it is getting steamed through social media, and if you pay attention, a lot of it is geared toward and attracting the attention of the people who I would like to call feeble-minded, which is usually the younger variety of people, or the people whose minds are easily manipulated, is what I'm trying to say. So on this show, we're going to talk about things that are going on because a lot of parents, which I'm having a hard time believing, are saying that once these events happen, that they just did not know that of their child. Now, let's just be real with one thing real quick. Now, for the people out there that have children, anybody that have children, especially once they get to the ages of being a teenager, you pretty much know your child. You know if they have a problem with whoever. You can tell. Whether they have hate in their heart, whether they're mentally disturbed or whatever. Like, for example, it seems like after every event of someone doing something of this nature, they always say that a person or the child was like not acting that way. They don't know where it came from, that kind of thing. Now, I'm going to tell y'all this. I refuse to believe that because every child I've ever met, or every child I've ever raised for that matter, is a product of me. Some of their thinking, some of their reactions, some of the things they do are pretty much going to be a product of their parents, especially if they grew up with their parent. Now, if they grew up with their parent, I give you that. But if they actually grew up with their parent, no. It's going to be hard for me to believe that a straight up, just non-racist, don't talk negative about another race type of person rear someone like that. I found that far-fetched, and I'm not going to even say hard to believe. I'm just going to call that a flat-out lie. I don't believe that for 1 second. The only way a child will be comfortable enough to even think or exist in that nature is it is in their surroundings. If it's not in their surroundings directly in their household, it's in their surroundings, period. You know, just in the surroundings of them growing up in a family of that nature, or in their surroundings of just uncles, cousins, nephews, somebody that is around them that they're hearing this type of talk on a regular basis. That's the only way that type of thing can exist. Otherwise, you would never really hear of those type of situations really coming up if they're not constantly surrounded. And the reason I say that is this, everybody. It would be something said the other way. Because that's what you do to your kids. Like, if your kids say something that you don't agree with, it will show. And you will say something to offset it. Something to put a thought in their head. Now, not saying that your child is going to listen and go with everything that you say, but the thought is there. So for your child to go to an extreme of that nature, of something that it just knew you had no type of thought, or they didn't hear nothing from their parent, which is mostly what kids look up to and where they get the majority of their earlier information from. If they didn't see that in you at all, it would be hard for them to go that far to the left. You know what I mean? It would be hard to go that far to the left knowing that your parents are completely opposite of what you're trying to say or do. You know what I mean? Like, the hate is real out here, people. I tell everybody to be careful at this point. I'm going to say everybody needs to be armed at this point, because the sickness that it will take in a person to, first of all, do something like that, much less film it, much less write racial slurs on it, and it's showing you that there is a definite threat. There's a definite threat out there. And there's a definite group of people that exists that presents that threat toward people that look like me. So a lot of things that I see go on, like, for example, I still ain't figured out why did he ride all the way to Buffalo, which probably means he stayed nowhere near a black community. The reason that he had to ride that far to do it, right? Now, I'm going to lean toward this even further. Because first of all, for you to have a racist mind of any race means that you were raised up in an enclosed culture. That the majority of the people that you know and deal with and understands that you have in life has been around those people that look like you. Which I know everybody can't afford to send their kids everywhere and do everything, which I always say that kind of cheats a child out of something. Parents, I always ask and say this. If you can at all, my mom and my dad was real free with me. They let me go anywhere. Like I spend times staying some in Chicago, California, and different places. If you got relatives anywhere when they're a child, let them kids go. Let that apron string go, Mom. Let that apron string go. Let them kids go somewhere where they will experience a different culture, different race of people, where they will see when a lot of people try to put something in their brain and try to tell them something is a certain way just because it's certain people look a certain way, they can kind of call, bullshit and say, nah, I don't know about that because they have an example then. I know John, he's not like that. I know, Terrence, he's not like that, or whoever. So you have to let them experience life. One thing I've always noticed, if y'all always notice with these people, with these mass shootings, if it's not something mental, because, if it's not something mental, it is something where they grew up in like an enclosed area. If it's not something they just mentally disturbed. Mentally disturbed is mentally disturbed. But mentally disturbed does not bring up racism and hate. There's not being, and some people opinion they'll say that's mentally disturbed. Nope, I say that is programmed. Mentally disturbed is a disturbance of your mind. It's something that can be chemically imbalanced with that person's brain, right? Racism is taught. If no one ever taught a person not to like somebody for a color, they would never know what the hell you was talking about. Like, say, for example, if we can erase everyone's mind and start back over from scratch and just completely erase that thought that you're superior to somebody because of a color, of course, in my opinion, I would feel like they would just find another way to be racist, because you got racist, you got sexist, it's all other ways of saying everybody wants to feel superior. It's going to always be a case of what I'm trying to say is someone want to feel superior, so they're going to invent a way to make themselves superior. If you take away racism, sexism, or classism, hell, a joke would be saying big feet people are the best people in the world or something. So everybody with small feet are idiots or beneath them or something stupid. You know what I mean? They're going to make up a way to make themselves feel superior, because you got people that are ego tripping. You got people that they need that in order to survive or to feel like they're important. But these situations that are happening now, like with this kid doing what he did, now there was security there. Of course, this kid came armed to the teeth and also reloaded, filmed it, wrote on it, and you know what? And through all that stuff he had on and he did, they actually taught him out to come out. Now I will say this: that is amazing. First of all, because you got black people that will get shot at a traffic stop for not complying, and they'll say not complying, which would be what they would go by. And I feel like there is nothing that is more not compliant than you done walked in and shot a group of people. That's the most non-compliant thing. And a retired policeman and all these people in the store. That's as much non-compliant as I can get. Now, I get a lot of people trying to make their argument when they saying, which we all know, it ain't necessarily, it don't always be from non-compliant. It'd be like some cops just having a bad day, or they shouldn't be cops. And just like they're bad cops, they're good cops. I get all that. But I'm saying is, somebody has to notice that the dramatic difference between the two. It's the reaction of the police when they get there and they see that white face that makes them want to change how they approach it. That's the only thing I can come up with. You see dead bodies in the parking lot and you feel like having a conversation? I just don't feel like it would have been the same whether it was a black or a Mexican. I just don't. I'm sorry. I don't see it. Especially because you felt like you need to do some get back, because in the back of your mind, you've been programmed to think that this person is outright evil. There's no good in them. There will never be any good in them. And I guarantee you, in jail right now, he's being treated like a human being. And if it was anybody of a minority, there would be something happening to him in jail or on the way to jail with the police. He would not show up to that jail looking regular. You understand what I'm saying? Now, I know that people want to use the black guy to offset what I said in New York subsystem, right? See, now you're changing up the whole conversation because now you're going to, he is mental because he wasn't just trying to shoot a race. You can't compare the two to a guy that actually wrote the word nigga on a gun and he purposely went in to shoot black folks. And I've seen the tape, which is a disgusting thing, but I've seen it. He actually pointed his gun at a white guy and they streamed and was like, no. And he said, sorry, and turned back around and killed somebody black. Can't compare the two. You can't compare the two. The only comparison you can have is if both did an evil act that I agree to. But you can't compare a person that's been programmed to hate to go do something to a person that has a history documented of mental illness that should have never had a firearm in the first place. Now, it's a lot of people in the chat room right now giving me suggestions, like asking me, what would you do to fix it? Man, at this point, because everybody wants to say, don't let mental ill people get a firearm. Okay, I get that. But you can't really stop a person from getting a firearm if they really want to get a firearm. They're going to get it legally. So, only thing I can say is you almost would have to make a task force to check on folks. Folks that have warned you, because most of the time these folks have warned somebody in some type of way of violent act. A hotline that when someone you think they're going to be violent or someone is going to be violent or has reported themselves as being violent or they're thinking about it or whatever you want to say. I mean, it's going to cost money, people, but what's better? Costing money or saving lives? You're almost going to have a task force for it. People that investigate it case by case. They constantly go through it. Like a person that shows it, you know, that did any kind of act at all. And I don't care if it's a phone call and they said they was going to do something. You got to put them up somewhere, man. That's the only thing I can think of to come up with. Because, like, they were saying, like, this kid had a problem at school. Well, it was reported he had a problem at school. That he had already made a threat to somebody. Now, everybody's going to say something about, you know, it was just a threat. No, I take all threats serious. Anything that you do to threaten my life, I take serious. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to let it go with just that threat. And I feel like, you know, people going to say something about people's civil liberties, but I feel like that's what you give up once you make that threat. To me, it's just like, it's no different than breaking the law. Once you make that threat, they're going to have to be case by case situation. Once they investigate it, they get to come in, man, if they want to, they get to pull your computer. See what you've been looking up. You know what I'm saying? Just a surprise visit. Hey, man, let me look at the hard drive. See what you've been looking at, who you've been talking to, what social medias you've been going on. Like, if you don't want to lose your civil liberties, is what I tell people, don't break the law. You can't have people, it's the same situation where I get what everybody's trying to do. They're going to be like, somebody can bend the law and use it for their advantage to mess with minorities, whatever. I get that. But hey, they're already doing it. So the only exception is, hell, they're doing it now and people getting killed in mass shootings because of it, because things that are not being reported, there's no one that watches it to watch those warnings when they say something is going wrong that they can report it or a parent feels comfortable reporting it. And I don't mean something like locking everybody up every time they have a situation. I mean something where a parent will feel comfortable going to somebody saying, I'm worried about my child. And they don't have to worry about going in there and being locked up and being mistreated either. You know what I mean? Where they will actually get some type of help because everyone cannot afford psychiatric help. See what I'm saying? It's almost like, nobody say a task force. It almost has to be like an organization just to watch that type of thing for mental wellness, if you want to put it that way. Which, hell, they probably could have eventually included that in Obamacare if y'all would have left it the hell alone. But, you know, that's another story. We're going to change that subject here or there before I get somebody else talking. But like I said, people, today we're talking about these mass shootings. We're concentrating on, well, all of them are evil. Let's put that out there. But we're concentrating on the ones that are starting to spike against black people. Because, believe me, in the way it's going, and it's probably already happening, just not being reported on a national level. If the people are doing that to say mass shootings, like the one in Church in South Carolina, now you got Buffalo, and you got California, there's a couple other places. Believe me, there are groups of people probably going around kidnapping a black person. or something. You know what I'm saying? Which we already know about those too. That's happened.